Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Amanda Dittlinger and I am a neurodivergent woman. I have autism, ADHD, aphantasia, and SDAM, all of which I talk about on this channel. Right now my focus is highly been on autism because it's a fairly new diagnosis and I think it's fun that I am vlogging this as a lived experience of what it's like to get a late diagnosis as an adult woman. So when you get a diagnosis, you don't just become autistic. You were always autistic, but now you have more language around why your brain prefers certain types of stimulations or doesn't like certain stimulations, loves to do things like STEM. It helps you concentrate, at least for me. So with my diagnosis, there's been a lot of ups and downs. You can see on previous videos, the unmasking process can be quite intense, and some days I have just been in more sensory overload than it seemed like before my diagnosis. It's not actually true. I've always had sensory issues. It's just now I have a word and terminology for them. And as I'm learning more about autism, I've come across a term called PDA, which stands for pathological demand avoidance. The more affirming term is persistent drive for autonomy. I like that. When I first came... Okay, I'm going to insert this clip here because I realized I didn't really explain what PDA is. Most people think of PDA, public display of affection. No, but in autism, it is pathological demand avoidance. And the reason why I didn't think that I really related to it as much is because it is oftentimes just associated with kids who might have like bigger outbursts or expressions of avoiding the thing that they're told to do. And there's a lot of more occupational therapies and things like that focused around children who have PDA, but adults can have it too. And I think, just like any spectrum-y thing, there is a spectrum, and mine is a little bit more subtle. But it basically just is when you're told or expected to do something, an autistic person with PDA's brain immediately doesn't want to do it, whether it's because of that expectation to perform or just not exactly sure, just these expectations around the request. So that is PDA as I understand it, and I'm still learning, so I will definitely do update videos on this when I learn more. Okay, back to the video. When I first came across PDA on a couple of autistic creators' content, I was like, that doesn't sound like me. But that's kind of how I felt when I first started reading about autism in general. I was like, oh yeah, this sounds right, but no, not this and this. But like anything with to do with the brain, every single person with autism or any kind of aphantasia, SDAM, we're all unique individuals and we're all going to present a little bit differently. So the more that I read about PDA, the more I'm like, this might actually be something that I need to think about and consider. So at my therapy session last week, I brought up with my therapist, I'm like, I've always struggled with money. I would really like to work on this because, come here. Okay, my dogs are joining me. This is Milo. We are training Milo to be a service dog for my son Ira, and this is our family pet Watson. Okay, sit down. Y'all just chill. Okay. So I brought up with my therapist last week about money issues because unfortunately money is just a big part of our society, and I have always YouTube content creation at home, you just got to deal with all the chaos. I have always had struggles around money, and there's a lot to unpack, and I'm not going to go into it all in this video. But the PDA profile, I'm like, oh, this might be a key, like one part of my money issue. And one of the reasons why is because I love doing volunteer work. I've done volunteer work in various different capacities over the years. One of my favorite volunteer was at a horse equine therapy place where I got to just basically, I would get the horses ready and I'd walk around the horse paddock with disabled riders and give them a chance to ride horses. And it was just so amazing. But anyway, I digress. I love volunteer work is basically what I'm trying to say. But anytime I do something where like I'm actually going to get paid for the work that I do, all of a sudden it's less enjoyable for me. It could be something that I actually like to do, like I would do in a volunteer capacity, but then it's like, oh, yay, you're so good at this, we're going to pay you. Then all of a sudden the joy and excitement goes out for me. And that's a problem, people. That's a big problem. Oh, and there's a big part of me that does want to get paid as an acknowledgement for the work that I do. Because in our society, money, equals worth and value, which I disagree with, but still there's part of me that buys into that. So I brought this whole money thing up at the end of my last therapy session. I was like, we just had a few minutes left and I was like, okay, this is something I want to work on, and I know we can't really unpack it all in 10 minutes, but I'm just going to say it so I can put it out there in the world. And then as a way to kind of hold myself accountable to my therapist, like this is something I really would like to understand better about myself. So now all week I've been thinking about it, and of course I've seen more about this PDA, which I don't think is all of my money like issues. I think that's just, it could be a big part of it, which would be interesting. So my therapist is not a specialist in autism, but we really gel, and that is very important in therapy. And she is actually very interested in learning more about autism. And because of my family and then some other clients that she's picked up that are also on the spectrum, she is taking more classes and she's actively learning more about autism. And I'm okay with that. I mean, yes, maybe it'd be nice to have a therapist that already is aware of more autism traits, but having a therapist that you just feel comfortable with is, and then who's willing to learn and not dismiss anything that I bring up, then that in itself is worth its weight in gold. Haha, money. So I have my session today in like a little while, but I wanted to blog this, kind of talk about how I'm gonna bring this up again in therapy and see her thoughts on it. And then I will continue this vlog and give you an update and see if I've kind of learned anything about it. I mean, one session is not going to unpack an entire lifetime's issues with money, but it's a start. And one thing that I want to do on this vlog is kind of, hey, real life in the moment, nose to the ground. This is kind of the process of getting a diagnosis. Having, like I said, the language to maybe start understanding parts of your life that have always been just an enigma. So here we are. This is me. This is real. This is uncovering autism. Hey, that'd be a good name for a, probably it's already taken. I'm in a really good mood this morning, which is weird. I slept terribly last night, but sometimes it doesn't seem like sleep equates my energy or mood at all, which is kind of bizarre, but I think a lot of times the sun and the energy, today we actually have a little bit of sun. I live in the Pacific Northwest, so this time of year is usually cloudy a lot, but right now the sun is peeking through and the sun energizes me, but I still love the Pacific Northwest. So okay, I digress. I'm going to cut here and then I'll be back on sometime later this afternoon to talk a little bit more about my therapy session. For all of those who are just waited with bated breath. Oh, and like always, I will link these down below. They're like $6 on Amazon, and they are my favorite stem. And anytime you click on my links, it helps support the channel. Here I am asking for money. Amazon throws me a few pennies. All right, I'll talk to you later. Okay, so I finished my therapy session and ate some lunch. Now I'm back. I did not reapply my mascara. I was like, I'm not gonna cry today. Oh my gosh. So we did talk a little bit about PDA, and then somehow we went down a whole nother rabbit hole, as one might do in therapy. But it was really good, and what's the word I'm looking for? Like cathartic, like just to get out some of these emotions that I didn't really even realize I was holding in. And that's why I advocate for therapy, because it's just so good to have somebody to talk to and listen to and validate your experience with you. But I digress. So yes, my therapist is familiar with PDA, and when I brought it up, we talked about how like, oh yeah, and she kind of like saw instances even from past sessions where I've talked about things that, you know, could be considered PDA. And so that's interesting. And so I talked to her, I said, okay, so now if I know that I fit the PDA profile, what can we do? Because there's oftentimes that I actually want to do something, but then if somebody says it, then immediately I won't want to. And it can be something very small. For instance, this is just like one that came up last couple nights ago. You know, Christmas is coming, and my mom asked if she could come over to decorate the tree with us. And I had already been thinking, oh, you know, I should invite Nana over, that's what my kids call her, Nana over to decorate the tree with us. But as soon as she asked me to invite her over, my immediate response was, no, I don't want to. And I don't know if that's because all of a sudden there's expectations, like, or now I have to, there's obligation, where before it was like, okay, if it works out, that would be awesome, and Nana can come over and decorate the tree with us. But then as soon as she puts it out there, so I'm just saying, like, I wanted to do that, but as soon as that request comes in, boom, don't want it anymore. And they can be in these like small instances, but it can also be in much larger instances where it really affects my ability to work, because I want to do things that would make money. But as soon as there is, you know, that expectation of, okay, in order for me to pay you, you need to do this, this, and this, boom, no longer interested. And that is not really a good way to be in society. This actually came up on Autistic message board that I'm on, where somebody else was talking about this, and it was a really interesting discussion where there's a lot of us autistic people who struggle with the concept of money and just want to do what we want to do without having to deal with money. And right now, at least, the world does not work that way. So I'm very thankful that my husband works and provides income for us, and that I am able to provide value to our family by doing things that aren't bringing in an actual income. So the things that I do are support and behind the scenes, and that adds value to my family's life, my life, and, you know, my husband's life specifically, but money isn't involved. Now, like I did mention before, I am sorta making money for the first time in many years. My other channel, Dit Dot, is now monetized. It's been monetized for about a month and a half. It's not like I make a lot of money. YouTubers, unless you're a huge YouTuber, you know, you really don't make much money. But it's still, it's fun. Like, I'm putting out content. I'm doing something creative and I'm getting paid for it. But it is very interesting, and my therapist actually brought it up, that as soon as it got monetized, I struggled. I almost lost interest in that channel. I had been working to monetize that channel for a year and 8 months. That was like my super high focused special interest goal. As soon as it monetized, I almost wanted to quit the channel. And that's PDA right there. Because it's like, oh God, now I've got expectations. But I was able to put that aside, and I've been still creating content on the dot and enjoying it. And I also started this channel, which obviously is not monetized because it's, you know, still new. If you watch this video, you're helping support and sharing it and liking it, all of that, of course, for any YouTube content creator. And then I do make, like I said, from Amazon, tiny little pennies. Although I haven't figured out how to get them to pay me. Apparently I have money in the affiliate link system, but I don't know how to tell them, hey, send me that check that you owe me. But as you can see, like, that's kind of a nice to have, not like, you know, oh my gosh, I need that money, because obviously I've not spent the time to try to figure it out. It's also kind of funny, money in general isn't really, it's one of those taboo topics in our culture, and I think it is one of the things that I honestly really, topics shouldn't be taboo. Like, communication, no matter what it is, if it doesn't happen, then we're closing ourselves off from each other. That's the beauty of having a language, is actually being able to share topics. But there's certain things that, you know, you just aren't supposed to talk about. So anyway, I don't know. I just hope that you got some value from this video as you learn along with me, or maybe you already have more information on PDA. And I will, you know, be continuing to explore this aspect of myself, to be able to share it with you, because I feel like it is very important to talk about the process. There are certain people who are knowledgeable about a subject and they just teach it to you. This is the thing, boom. But here I am right now. I am exploring with you. I'm learning as I go, and I'm sharing the process, which is not an easy thing for me, because perfectionism is something that I struggled with my entire life. But I'm sorry if this is loud. This is one of my other favorite fidgets. Perfectionism is something that I've struggled with my entire life, and so to put out content that doesn't feel packaged and whole and complete is nerve-wracking for me, but I think it's so needed, and I am just putting myself out there to fulfill a need that I wish was there for me. So, you know, thank you guys so much if you've made it this far in the video. I really appreciate it, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.